can see the alternative. Fine, good and dusted. And majority of our audience actually tended to support your suggestion going by the comments that we got. Now, since that has not been presented, what is the government side doing wrong, or what are they doing right at this particular point?
One, government, I think, as much as they are executing their mandate, there are areas that they have erred as far as what has been seen matters finance bill. Currently, as we speak, majority of the people are definitely going to not support that. If you were to look at the, not that I want to rely on the opinion pollsters, but you'll give more or less of 75% of the country or more are definitely not in support of this finance bill. Now that they're not in support of that finance bill, what's the alternative? They were not offered one. Okay? If today, for example, or tomorrow, or in the course of this week, government gets the upper hand and court upholds the ruling, government will proceed. All right? But it will be proceeding against, more or less, it will be like proceeding against the grain. Let me simplify this matter, Elijah, and put it this way. I'm surprised that my good friend, and he's a lawyer, says that as much as he's a lawyer, he does not want to talk about the Constitution. That is a big shock. Because how then do you run a country or a government without referring to a Constitution? That's number one. Number two, I'd say that initially we should put more trust in institutions. Matters policy. And I totally support what my brother here is saying. I think he's missing the point. Housing is not only in Nairobi. Okay? One of the main economic drivers of the Kenyan economy is building and construction. Another one is transport and infrastructure. Another one is ICT. Then we come to agriculture and tourism. I'll just mention those five. So to rule out that the housing project should not be there, to me, I don't think it's very prudent. Maybe we should be talking about the regulation of the housing project. That is matters policy, that is matters law. And again, I want to appeal to Kenyans, please, don't listen to us as individuals as to who's scoring above who. Refer us and refer in a way your leader, your government, your opposition leader, according to one, what are the skills at which he's performing and representing you upon. You can only do that by the Constitution. You can only do that by the rule of law. How well is government going to implement what they're saying they're going to do that? It's through policy. So to say that you're not going to refer to Constitution or to the law, to the policy as much as you're a lawyer is a shock. All right? So let us be clear. Housing is not concentrated in Nairobi. And again, I'm saying, if government gets the upper hand today, well and good for them. Now, back to the people, because I do not want to hold brief for Kenya Kwanza or to hold brief for Azimio. I'm really trying to be a person who's going to talk to the people of this country and tell them, look guys, this is the time that you have the open reality that the big man on the other side, Mr. Raila Odinga, has not offered you an alternative solution. If you're saying that government is not giving us the good deal, then what is a better deal? There's none being offered on the other side. So again, you don't just blindfoldedly go to the streets and say we are now up in arms against this. That's okay. It is within your rights constitutionally. And I want to refer again to the Constitution as much as I'm not a lawyer. Okay? So please, Kenyans, let us take the opportunity to follow and place ourselves on a mirror of the rule of law and the Constitution before we talk about this, that, and the other.
Is the solution now that Raila Odinga is offering his supporters, saying, well, look, they're not listening. So we had suggestions that we wanted to give them, but they're not listening. Is that a solution? So come supporters and we make them listen, because whatever is calling out right now is that they have to listen. They're not listening. Yes, so they have gone now to make them listen so that they could offer them a solution.
Okay. I'll be very brief. I'll try to be brief.
Yes.
Let's talk about realities, not about ideas or projections of what might happen or what might not happen. The reality is this. Article 131 of the Constitution gives the powers of the authority of the office of the president. It is clear. The president is supposed to be a national unifying figure. Okay? He is the commander-in-chief of the armed forces. He is the head of state and government, and so forth and so on. But the same Constitution, Article 132, equally gives the president, for example, the power and the authority to, let's say, if the worst comes to the worst, and we have a general case, it says a general case of insurrection in the country, which is what we are at risk of having, that he can declare a state of emergency. which would not be the very best. But if he is, and if the situation and the reality of the country escalates to that level,
yes,
he has options to do that. But as far as Azimio goes, they are saying, and he rightfully says, because I think he's holding brief for them, that they do not trust Parliament, they do not trust the people who are going to go there. Then if you do not trust Parliament, then resolve yourself to then pull out altogether. Don't attend for quorums, all right? And again, I'm saying, the only option they have is to go for general insurrection in the country. And then again, revert to the same old strategy that Raila Odinga has always used. Now, in conclusion, how do you still use old maps to discover new roads? I don't think it's really quite a good way to go about it. As much as we want to say that he has no other option.
Yes.
That is the best option he has.
Pretty much. Ben, you have two responses to get into. The housing is just about, it's not just about the houses themselves. You've got to look at it way differently. Even the analogy for one egg per student, which is something they're presenting here, that indeed it could be in the same directions. Number two, that at any particular point, you really have to, in your conversation, stick yourself within the Kenyan Constitution. Yes.
I think they didn't understand. What I said is I did not want to delve into the provisions of the Constitution, because what happens is this. Many of us lawyers, if another lawyer was sitting here, I can say so many things about the same article, and another lawyer will say the same thing about the same article, and you will think we are reading two different constitutions, and that's why arguments last in court. And I have always respected our courts. They're wonderful courts. They're made of judges who know what they do. So that's why most of these constitutional interpretations, we leave them to court. And they usually come up with a very good interpretation to finality. What I'm trying to say is this. The problems that Kenya has are not problems that will be solved by the law, unfortunately. We are drowning in laws. We have more than 600 acts of parliament. And every other day we are creating a new law, the Anti-Corruption Act. Then after we realize it's not happening, we create another one to and Kenya is always making new laws. But they are forgetting one thing. The American Constitution is about 33 pages. Ours is a book. Until we change our people to become people who respect the law, regardless of whether they are 600 acts of parliament or it's a constitution that is less than 50 pages, it will be futile and useless to continue making more laws. What we call corruption here is blatant theft. Somebody stole public money. The penal code is enough. Is enough to get a thief, he's a thief, he's a thief, he's a thief. But because he's a thief who is stealing billions, you want to glorify that theft and call it corruption. And create a special court for it, and special judges and special chambers, which is a waste of public resources. The reason I do not waste so much time on the law is because I realize our software is broken. And we are people who must change. So that a superpower that has a constitution less than 50 pages is running so well, and we have a very bulky constitution, and we are still making more laws in parliament to govern ourselves because we are mannerless. We don't even follow the no laws we make. Then we have to make others. And that's why I can tell you as a lawyer, our problem is not legal. Our problem is our people. And we need to fix them. And we need to fix ourselves. And we need to change the way we think, the way we behave. Otherwise, we are going to make another 400 acts of parliament. So that this one enforces, this one. Like now, public participation, it's clear in the Constitution. But we are already making another act to help us to be able to do public participation better, because we've realized that government listens to these people, this is what they are saying, and then they do the exact opposite. On the housing issue, you know, if your tool is a hammer, you tend to think that every problem is a nail. So you have to nail every problem. So if your tool is a wheelbarrow, you tend to think that every other problem will be solved through mortar and brick. Build your houses if you must. What Kenyans have a problem with is already their resources are too little. Kenyans, ukipata mshahara ya 20,000, you probably needed 35. You are already underpaid. In fact, your salary never meets your needs. You're always on Tala, Fuliza, Madeni, na Hustler Fund. And then somebody wants to take another percentage out of your salary.
Yes.
First, without your consent, because in public participation you said no. And two, they want to make your cost of transport very high because they've made your fuel go up. And three, they have made your electricity go up, so they're still eating into the same small salary. And you expect this Kenyan to support the housing thing. The reason Kenyans are fighting the housing issue is not because you're building houses or you're creating employment. It's because you're eating into the already meager resources, and you're eating into them by force, without their consent and without their blessings. And that's why even when it goes to court, and Kenyans are saying through courts and through their elected leaders that they do not want you to eat into their salaries, you come and bang your chest and say, we are going to raid into your salaries anyway, and we are going to build houses for you anyway. Go build those houses. Build 1 million, don't build 200,000.
Yes.
But don't do it by raiding the salaries of Kenyans who are already suffering with what little they have. Find another way. Kenyans don't have a problem. The line, where they are drawing the line, is when you find a Kenyan who is struggling to provide food for his family, and his salary is not enough, and you still want to raid on it and build for them houses. Go build them. Build 2 million houses if you may. Create those employment opportunities if you may. But these Kenyans already are struggling to feed their families. Don't raid their incomes.
Pretty much. Danton, want to come back to you. I like the fact that you do agree that indeed in some instances Ben is right, but then you agree with him at some point and then you take a complete turn and then say, but you see, even if I do agree with him, this is exactly what I'm presenting. Here's the thing. You hear what Robert is saying. Robert is saying, well, look here, everything is within law. Please do not make this a case about you and I. At the end of the day, we have to make a reference point. It's got to be the law. If you look at what President Uhuru Kenyatta did, people say, well, this is unlawful. I mean, we don't understand why this is, all right? This preferential treatment of one Kenyan, and you're representing his views, we don't believe exactly where this is coming from. Other people would also criticize Mwai Kibaki for what he did. Other people would criticize Moi for what he did, all right? But when you're cognizant to the fact that there's this one thorn within my country, all right? Is that where sometimes, at the end of the day, you gotta say, well, guys, it's about me, and so let me use my powers to do that. What would be your advice to one Ruto? Because you can see majority of Kenyans are now saying, well, we do expect our president to speak right now. He's not speaking. In fact, currently, he's not in the country.
Before we think so big,
yes,
I would like us to constrict to a family setting. See, maybe you have a family and you eat well, you eat 3, 4 meals a day, and then maybe your source of income is a little bit compromised. The best thing to do is to call your family, and then you tell them, hey, look, I know this is how we've been doing things in the house, but now I can't afford to feed every day, 3 meals a day for all of you.
No, sir.
So the alternative, we are going to eat twice a day because that is all I can afford. Now the children say, no, we have to eat 3 meals a day because it is our right, you know, we are under 18 and what have you. What are you going to do? You are the father of the house. Are you going to say now you are going to sell your kid day or what so that you feed them because they believe it is their right? Or you'll try to make them understand that actually this is the situation and this is the way forward.
Yes.
This is what the current government is doing, that we have a problem here, we cannot run away from it, and this is the solution. The opposition is telling us, find other ways of solving this problem, but they are not telling us, what do you want us to do? What is the alternative? Table your alternative, we'll put it into consideration. The opposition is not telling us. And according to the Kenya Kwanza's manifesto, it was clearly written that this is one of our core agendas, okay? And the Finance Act came and it said, this is where we're going to find the money.
Yes.
So the government will come to play and tell Kenyans, listen, as much as this is the situation, if we just say it is your right, then the government will run into the drain and it will be so bad. But this is the alternative. Give us time, give us the opportunity to practice what is in the best of interest of the nation.
Yes.
Yes.
Pretty much. Now, gentlemen, I'm just going to give you 1 minute each, then to summarize this conversation. Robert, I'm going to begin with you. It is now Wednesday until they feel they have been represented. Should Ruto act?
Ruto cannot necessarily act in his official capacity as president matters which way forward in terms of until the ruling is out from the courts, that is. The best thing I think they're doing right now is doing what probably they will call parliamentary caucuses and to put the troops together. What I'd like to tell the president is very simple. He already has won the elections. He won at the ballot, he won at, he has won at Parliament, at the Senate. So far, so good for him. He needs to focus now the battle outside the house. In our profession, in terms of government relations, public affairs, he needs to put in the gears of very, very shrewd lobbying and advocacy to try and sell what his government is trying to put ahead in terms of his financial bill, his financial act. He should now tell his troops to not longer be so emboldened, not to take Raila Odinga for granted, and to go back to the people. Lastly, if at all the courts are going to uphold the Finance Act to be implemented, well and good. If they do not, it is not actually so bad for him. It is also another opportunity for him as a president and the side of the government as Kenya Kwanza to show the people, okay, fine, we are willing to listen, and when we make a mistake, we are willing to go back and change. So after all, we are not the monster that you're being told we are.
That's it.
So I think for him, he still has an opportunity either way.
Pretty much. Ben, 1 minute, as well as, but I want you to actually close your remarks on this particular one. That this is according to Ceci. Wow. And Nation this morning, I'm just going to join those particular questions together. This is what they're saying, that indeed we can call Ruto a listening president, if at all is one guy who appears that